Welcome, everyone, to the captive audience. It is the 24th of March, 2025, starting a few minutes late here, and sorry about that, but we did get it rolling this time. Not as much as a delay that we had last week, and I'm glad that we're improving this. Meanwhile, we've had quite a news day, a news weekend, and I wanted to just cover a few of the items here that I think you'll find very interesting. So, the Trump administration um, is asking that the Supreme Court halt the order from the judge that has ordered the executive branch to rehire federal workers. And it's this is again where you have a district court judge, federal district court judge in San Francisco, just claiming that right now he has the authority to order the executive branch to hire people back in several different departments: Veteran Affairs, Agriculture, Defense, Energy, Interior, and Treasury. And of course, this is not where an act of Congress has put all of these people into place. There might be a case that needs to be heard, but he's going the extra step and ordering President Trump around from his perch in San Francisco. And so now we've got an effort by the Trump administration to ask the Supreme Court to stop that order. And we're going to find out pretty soon if the Supreme Court's actually going to preserve the prerogatives of the executive branch or engage in an extended overreach in the judicial branch. And this is where we're at right now. And a case in point of this judicial overreach is the U.S. District Court Judge James Boasberg, who is the one who has been ordering the deportation of illegal alien gang members be terminated. And in fact, he tried to order a flight to return from a foreign country and bring back illegal alien gang members in the United States, which is fascinating that a judge thinks he has the power to order planes around. But turns out that this judge, months before he got around to blocking this, went to a privately funded legal conference in Idaho that featured sponsors and speakers who have expressed severe anti-Trump sentiments, particularly on immigration, and a theme that echoed the Democrat Party's 2024 stated mission of saving democracy, supposedly by bringing as many illegal alien gang members into the country as possible, along with others, to vote in our elections. He was one of 9 Democrat-appointed judges and 3 Trump-nominated jurists to attend the conference in Sun Valley, where 2 of the sessions are titled "Role of Judges in a Democracy" and "State of Democracy." And so this is, it offers no details other than he was in attendance. It doesn't say who paid for his attendance or travel or what the remuneration was. Of course, the court system is overseen by the Administrative Office of U.S. Courts. There are ethical rules that are supposed to govern what these guys can do. And they require that the private entity that issues an invitation to a federal judge to attend an educational program as a speaker, panelist, or attendee offers to pay for or reimburse that judge in excess of $480 must disclose financial and programmatic information. Rules do not require specific accounting for each judge or even how much was paid to judges at all. So that's a confusing rule, but hey, it looks like this guy might actually be somebody who subscribes to or sympathizes with these policies and the openly hostile organizations that push those forward. And Rodel is the name of one of the groups. It's Rodel Institute's Judicial Fellowship. And it's funded by the same foundations that often sponsor anti-Trump programs and publications. So he's drinking some pretty left-wing Kool-Aid here or serving it up, one of the two. And their faculty partners are all left-wing and anti-Trump folks. And its annual book award is named after Congressman Mickey Edwards, who's a former Republican congressman who's a harsh Trump critic and endorsed Joe Biden in 2020 and Kamala Harris in 2024. Tells you about all you need to know. Their chief executive officer, John Kroger, has also sounded criticism of Trump in recent weeks on his LinkedIn page, claiming Trump's administration has intentionally taken a large number of actions that violate statutes or clear congressional constitutional precedent that in prior times would warrant bipartisan impeachment. Now, I don't know if this is the same John Kroger that used to be, I believe, an attorney general in Oregon, but that would speak volumes. Kroger said last year that Trump was disqualified from being president in his view, and his justification related to January 6th and pledging to pardon people that were involved with that. And so, this is what the left does, and they get away with it until somebody catches them and exposes it. And this is what we're seeing here right now. I think that this information has to get out there. People have to see what's going on with this, see what groups are behind it, and just understand that when a judge doesn't recuse himself from a case like this after having these associations and affiliations with groups that are comparing President Trump to Nazis and white supremacists and so on and so forth, maybe they shouldn't be on the bench. And this is something that we actually have to expose everywhere we can. Now, the Federal Appeals Court, by the way, is going to hear the case from this judge that was intended to halt the Trump deportation of the accused gang members to El Salvador. So there is going to be federal appellate review of the order temporarily blocking the Trump administration from doing this. Now, the way it works is that if that court finds that President Trump, that the people who sued the administration are unlikely to prevail, which based on the merits, apparently that's what they do, then they often lift such injunctions and court orders. If they seem to think that he might succeed, then we'll hear that they might succeed. We'll hear that from the DC Court of Appeals, and this is going to be a big moment. And maybe it'll get appealed to the Supreme Court after that, if the Supreme Court takes it. But this is the lawfare that the Democrats are engaged in, and this is a proper outcome that it's being dealt with at the next level in the appellate court system. In other news, incendiary devices are found at a Tesla dealership in Texas, authorities say. The devices were taken into police custody without incident. Now, they don't say if they've taken a person into police custody. They got the devices. But again, it's really, Attorney General Pam Bondi says the recent attacks on Tesla properties are, quote, nothing short of domestic terrorism, unquote. The swarm of violent attacks on Tesla property is nothing short of domestic terrorism. And I think that is what terrorism is when it's meant to take violent acts of destruction, acts against people in law enforcement or private individuals, to terrorize them into taking some action, says not to buy Teslas or be afraid to go to the dealership or get rid of or sell their Tesla, and also to try to terrorize people into pressuring someone like Elon Musk to stop doing what he's doing with Doge. That's terrorism, plain and simple, and should be dealt with. So let me see if I can post some of these stories for you. I'm sort of multitasking here. Whenever I fly solo, it's not too easy. And I'm going to make sure that you guys have all that. And I see, I wasn't looking at your comments, but I'll start looking at them now. And I will post the latest Tesla thing. By the way, Attorney General Pam Bondi has also issued a pretty tough warning to a Texas Democrat. This Texas Democrat, Jasmine Crockett, they refer to her as a Democrat firebrand, said recently, let's see, what did she say? She spoke at a virtual Tesla takedown movement rally last week. That's what they're calling them. Where she claimed that all she wanted for her birthday this week was for Musk to be, quote, be taken down, unquote. But clarified that her comment was meant in a nonviolent manner. The Tesla takedown movement is a group that's rallying against Musk and Doge, and is calling for protests on March 29th at 500 Tesla locations globally. This Jasmine Crockett is an elected official, so Pam Bondi says she needs to tread very carefully because nothing will happen to Elon Musk, and we're going to fight to protect Tesla owners throughout the country. She urges caution when it comes to, Bondi's urge of caution comes after she charged 3 people for allegedly vandalizing Tesla cars and properties. The Attorney General said she's not backing down from the charges for crimes she has referred to as domestic terrorism. We're looking at everything, especially if this is a concerted effort, she said. That is important. So, this is what we're going to get. So we're going to get Antifa-like Democrat violence. Now, I want to contrast this in a fascinating way with something that was said by Representative Val Hoyle. Val Hoyle said in a town hall in Springfield recently, with the mayor of Springfield sitting at a table near her, who I believe is a Republican, although someone probably should get in touch with them and find out. But she claimed that fascism is rising quickly in the U.S. That's what she said. She told people that local organizing, national organizations, publicizing stories from affected federal workers to combat the new administration's agenda is what people should be doing. She said, show up because fascism rises slowly and then quickly. We're in the quickly part, and now is the time that we can turn it around. I think I just read what's happening to Tesla dealerships and the threats that are being issued. So fascism isn't about whether or not every federal worker gets to keep their job. It's about people engaging in the same hooliganism to intimidate others in order to affect our political process. That's really what fascism is. And the groups that are engaging in fascism support Val Hoyle and agree with her. And so, yes, I'm going to just go ahead and agree with Val Hoyle that fascism is rising quickly, but it's rising with Democrats. Thus, today, my moniker for today is Democrat fascism is rising. It is. And just watch how they equivocate on this, how they make jokes about it, how they say, well, I don't support violence, but, and then go on to explain just how bad they believe Elon Musk is and how much he deserves to be, quote, taken down, unquote, in peaceful means, they later usually add. And so they say we're going to stand by our values, and that means that she's going to, the most important thing to Val Hoyle is to make sure that the federal government is as large and wasteful as possible. She joined Doge, and we all called that out when we first heard it. It was a head fake. It was garbage. And that's what she did. It was garbage. And we're going to find more about this in the future because I think we're going to learn that the real Val Hoyle is not the one who ran for re-election last year, not even the one who joined Doge after the election when she was worried that maybe Democrats had gone too far and that it could hurt her re-election chances. No, The real Val Hoyle is the one that is screaming and doing this. She likes to do this. She goes, and you need to do this now, which is go out and obstruct and protest and organize. And, but I thought she was a legislator. Where are her proposals for the things that everybody said they were concerned about in the election last year? Well, I think you're going to find they're nowhere, because now she is just riding the latest wave of Democrat progressivism, which is they like waste, fraud, and abuse. They want a giant federal government. They want taxes to be as high as possible. And they don't want to solve homelessness, inflation, and the cost of living. They don't want to find a way to make sure that we can use our forest resources and also reduce the risk of wildfires. Now, she's too busy leading these ridiculous protests all over the district, and she calls them town halls, which you and I are paying for, by the way. I don't know if Oregon's going to get any companies coming to the U.S. They are not doing a great job keeping companies from leaving Oregon, and usually there's a connection between those two. Let's see. I'm just scanning back here. Am I familiar with Senate Bill 1006? I will have to look. I don't know if I have that one handy. But I know that bills authored by Republicans, if they get a hearing, often don't get anywhere. And if they got a hearing in one house, they're still alive, but they only have a few weeks left before they have to get a hearing in the other house, or they die. And I think, what's probably going to happen with most Republican bills. Not that we shouldn't file, we shouldn't make the argument, but I think you're going to find that's kind of the deal. By the way, one of the issues that Val Hoyle said she was going to solve, we haven't heard from her on anymore because she's too busy going after Elon Musk and screaming about federal workers being laid off in bloated federal bureaucracies that she helped vote to grow during her first 2 years in Congress. But get this, Oregon is actually in the midst of passing the first in the nation statewide rent control legislation. They passed that in 2019. I misread that. But now there's worry that the law started off with a cap of annual rent increases of 7% plus inflation for buildings 15 years or older. But because of the spike of inflation in 2023, and they added a proviso saying such an increase could not exceed 10%. Now there's some backsliding. So there's House Bill 3054, which would allow rent increases no greater than inflation for those living in manufactured home parks, while Senate Bill 722 would largely aim at banning algorithm-based pricing software. They're going to ban algorithms used by rental companies. It includes a provision to remove the rent cap exemption for buildings older than 7 years. Although both stem from good intentions, those short-term band-aids carry some negative consequences. This is the Oregonian saying it. Most notably, that developers and investors need to reverse the housing deficit, or they're just going to steer clear of Oregon, because when you say, well, you've got a shortage of housing, you've got a bunch of people chasing a limited amount of housing, and then you say, hey, but you can't raise rents to respond to this increased demand. And that often turns into people then going and financing the building of more housing. Well, the government's standing in the way of building more housing, and the government's going to stand in the way of the private sector being able to raise rents in order to pay for what they would then have, which is eventually more housing. That's the real way to solve this, right? So they're just going to go ahead and these are price controls. Pam Marsh, who's from Southern Jackson County, is one of the chief sponsors of this. The Senate bill There's also 722 calls for an exemption period to only 7 years that could a cut that could gradually change the value of the building. I don't know what that means, but anyway, so rather than tailing solutions to the problems, they're just going to increase funding for targeted rent assistance as well, which is like shoving more money into paying for rent while still constraining housing supply and literally standing in the way of building more. They're just going to get higher costs, and then if people can't actually make more money off of higher demand, then they're not going to build stuff. So no wonder it's the government. It reminds me of that famous Ronald Reagan saying, when it moves, tax it. When it stops moving, regulate it and subsidize it. I think that's a paraphrase of it. And it just shows what government does. It tries to control the market, then it kills the market, and then it says we got to subsidize it in order to keep it alive. Just creates a dependence on government, and it doesn't solve the problem. So anyway, have a look at this, because all the stuff that they're doing is they don't understand economics 101, and they're the main reason why housing is not getting built. They are standing in the way of it, and they think just by throwing money at it, they'll fix it. Does anyone know if the Democrat Party in Oregon pays people to submit testimony on legislative bill process? Well, you could say that lobbyists probably get paid to do this. And I don't know if they pay private individuals, and I don't know if it's illegal or not, but it's entirely possible that they're doing it. The existing power grid, the existing power grid is the one that the Democrats have sabotaged by replacing reliable, inexpensive energy with very expensive, unreliable energy. So again, the government's actually creating the problem and then claiming that they're the solution. You know where that's going to lead to: higher taxes and less energy. Or a bill to give striking workers unemployment pay has passed the state Senate. It squeaked through, actually. There were some Democrat dissenters that voted against it, but of course, usually these things are arranged that if the leadership wants a bill to pass, then they let some people vote against it so that they can virtue signal for their districts, claiming, well, I voted against it and I was really opposed. But they still are having it go through, and it got 16 votes in the 30-member chamber, the state Senate. It's Senate Bill 916, and it followed about a little bit more than an hour of debate, and the Democrats insisted that unemployment pay would be comparatively rare, but give striking workers the stability to hold out for a fair contract, including government workers striking against the government. So you get to pay taxes for the government not to deliver a service when workers strike against providing that service, and then you get to pay the workers to keep striking. What could go wrong with that scenario? And the unemployment insurance fund in this state it's an institution. It's existed for a long time. It's supposed to be insurance that you pay into, but now they actually want to make it so that they can drain it to pay people to strike indefinitely. This is one of the dumbest. It's one of the dumbest bills in the entire nation, and it would be the first state in the country to grant this benefit to both public and private sector workers. And there's only 2 other states that offer unemployment pay to striking workers in the private sector, and that's New York and New Jersey. So you're going to get to pay for strikes if this passes the House, and it looks like it's heading over there. Like I said, there's some Democrats that say that they decided to vote against it, but because they have enough votes to spare, they're going to go ahead and do what they're doing. And guess what? We need to remind everybody that when there's a strike in the future, if this passes and gets signed into law, that we're paying those people to be on strike. We are. We're subsidizing it with our tax dollars, which means that we'll have unbelievably long and amazing quantities of strikes going on forever, and people can sustain it indefinitely. Democrats love that, by the way. And your taxes will be increased in order to pay for it. Yep, because they can't get money from the federal government for this, and they certainly won't get it right now. Another bill, Taxpayer Association has made a comment on this gun bill. It's House Bill 3076, which instructs the state of Oregon to, quote, study gun stores. And the Taxpayer Association sent a message that they have published on Oregon Catalyst that they sent to the committee, urging a no vote on this bill. And it said, if the state of Oregon wishes to study firearms, we first recommend that Oregon study, 1, Portland closing its gun response team in 2020. 2, Portland defunding its police by 100 positions. 3, Portland dropping 1,000 criminal charges. These actions were followed by the greatest homicide rate increase in the nation. It would be good to study that. Speaking of studying, it also adds that President Biden released the world's #1 gun smuggler, Victor Bout, in a prison exchange for an American athlete drug user. Victor Bout has since resumed his weapons smuggling, according to the Wall Street Journal. So please study this too. See, Democrats, they like to have gun laws. They just don't like to apply them to criminals. They like to criminalize legal, innocent conduct and possession, but they don't like to throw the book at criminals and make sure that those criminals can't operate, say, with illegal guns. So they get lots of people with illegal guns, and then they criminalize people who are just wanting to defend themselves and be ready to do that. By the way, if you'd be interested in looking up near you, if you're in Portland, how many shootings happened near your home in 2024, there's a handy way to look this up. For the first time in 4 years, the number of shootings in Portland dropped below 1,000, which means that this is down from its record high. But now they want to make it possible for people to actually see if there's shootings near their home. And they disproportionately occur in East Portland, which I think we know is a place that has had the tendency to have this problem. There were some neighborhoods that experienced some declines. The Centennial and Lentz neighborhoods recorded 55 and 41% fewer shootings respectively, but other neighborhoods saw a sustained high level of shootings. Hazelwood has 80, Powellhurst 58, and there's very, very minor declines in those. So I don't know what's going to happen going forward, but I do know that if they would like to make it easier for people to see if there's shootings into their homes, I got another idea. How about if they study where these shootings are and then start figuring out how to make sure there's enough law enforcement to deal with it. Now, I have a lot of confidence in the DA. I think he's going to do a great job. But if the police either have insufficient resources or not enough personnel, then it won't get better, because you can't prosecute somebody that doesn't get arrested in a case built against. By the way, there's a Portland cafe that it's a local Stumptown coffee shop in Portland that uses the advertised code for their bathroom 1312, and it is a symbol, an Antifa symbol for all cops are bastards, ACAB, because it's based on the number of the letter in the alphabet. And this is something that you can find ACAB in 1312 spray painted and in vandalism all over the city. Kevin Dahlgren, who you might recall the homelessness watchdog and independent reporter, has reported this, and it's fascinating. It is they're owned by Pete's Coffee, apparently, the Stumptown Coffee location, and they only hire activists at that location. I just wonder how responsive the police are going to be there. You know, I think very recently the police chief, who did have police personnel that would come and attend the town halls of some of the city councilors in Portland, withdrew those police personnel from two of the councilors because basically they were just giant police bashing sessions. There's no reason for the police to stay there, and because there's no requirement for them to be there. So the goodwill the police showed by being there to provide security was not appreciated by the folks that were there. So yeah. So what was the bill? Was it 1006? Let me see if I can find that. It's kind of hard to look stuff up while I'm in the middle of the show, but so maybe I can address it tomorrow night. But I don't see it in a quick overview here. Let's see, 1006. Oh, I found it. Uphold separation of powers in legislation. Let me see if I can get that. And it states that measures must be asked for by members or committees of the House and the Senate, and cannot be asked for by state agencies or officials. That makes sense. Like, if you can't find a legislator who's willing to put their name on it, then you shouldn't have state agencies or officials being the requester of legislation, because they're not legislators, they're an executive branch. This is how a lot of things, actually, a lot of really awful legislation gets put into place and considered, is that it's so bad that no legislator will put their name on it, so some state agency requests it. So this is that bill, and you can see the details of it. Public hearing took place on the 19th. Today's the 24th. So the 19th at 1 p.m. there was, and you can go, and it does have the names of the committees. You can always send an email to the committees. You can always check out too when and if there's going to be further action on this, such as a work session. So it did get a hearing. That's actually good, but we'll see what happens from there. And by the way, the bill 3075, which is an effort to bypass the courts in order to implement Measure 114, which, as you know, Measure 114 was just ruled constitutional by the Oregon Court of Appeals, by the radical left-wing judge that Vance Day competed against back in 2022. And she made up a bunch of nonsense and supposition about how it was no biggie. It's just fine. And I've covered this in previous shows, but essentially Measure 114 vacates your Second Amendment rights and replaces it with a government permit that you must earn from the government. And well, they weren't very patient about it, and they wanted to make sure that they didn't have to wait around for the court system to fully adjudicate that. And the appellate court did rule there's 30 days for an appeal to the state Supreme Court on that. It's uncertain whether the state Supreme Court will take it, but this bill, House Bill 3075, is going to get a hearing. It looks like next week, probably Tuesday, and it's to bypass the courts and force the implementation of Measure 114. You know, democracy. Yes. So, by the way, that passed on a statewide basis by, I think, less than 50,000 votes out of, it was like 2.5 or 3 million votes. So, it's a razor thin Democratic vote in favor of that. And I believe the Harney County judge had it right that it was unconstitutional. We don't know what will happen at the federal level. It was ruled on by a federal district judge, but I believe there's an appellate process that could take place from there, especially after the state deals with it. It was on hold at the state level. So there's a whole bunch of action alerts that you should check out on the Oregon Citizens Lobby. We had Jeff Krupp on last week, and he gave us a good rundown of what the Oregon Citizens Lobby is up to, how you can get involved, how you can go to OregonCitizenslobby.org and get more information, figure out how you can submit testimony and push back on all this stuff. But the latest bills, the ones that are coming up for hearings here very soon, are going to be listed there, and all the links you need in order to go and submit testimony will be taking place there. By the way, there's a Senate bill that extends the concealed handgun ban areas, and another Senate bill that restricts firearms possession to adults, only adults who are age 21 and over. So if you're 18 or 19 and you're female and you're living on your own in an apartment, working someplace, you're not allowed to possess firearms according to this bill anymore, and you can't defend yourself. You can call the police, and when seconds count, they're only minutes away. So they're going to town on your Second Amendment rights. They want to mandate a 3-day wait when purchasing a firearm, no matter what. Just mandate. You just make you wait. Not for any purpose other than make you wait. They want to study firearms transfer background checks. They want to study it. They want to have a gun dealer licensing program. They want to ban what they call rapid fire activators. And the funny thing about this is all the stuff that they're doing, it's really not based on any science of making anybody safer, which is what the appellate court said on Measure 114, that they claim that there was a legitimate interest and that this measure, in fact, made people safer. And it's easily argued that it does the opposite. And that was in particular applied to the case of having a clip in a gun that has more than 10 rounds, which even very small semi-automatic pistols can have a clip that holds more than 10 rounds. So yeah, this is insane. They're really trying to make you defenseless. Meanwhile, none of this stuff actually stops criminals from illegally obtaining guns and doesn't do anything about the ones who have them. So they will be well armed when they come to your house or encounter you on the street. But you might be a criminal for being ready to defend yourself. That doesn't sound like the Second Amendment to me. Lastly, food stamps for non-citizens. There was a hearing on the 25th, or there will be a hearing on the 25th tomorrow morning in the House. And you really should pay attention to this one because this is totally tone deaf. What they want to do is take the SNAP program, the food stamp program, and say food is free for everyone. And we're going to use state funds to give it to illegal aliens who are flooding into the state because it's a sanctuary state. We're going to give them free food. That's what they get. That is an entitlement they want to give to everybody who walks into the state of Oregon. And this is a state that says they need more tax money because they're running out. And they don't have enough money to educate kids. They don't have enough money to plow snow or fill potholes. They're turning their pockets inside out all the time, saying we don't have the money to do the basic things that the government's supposed to do. But we're going to give food stamps to non-citizens who have absolutely no right to that and shouldn't be receiving it and shouldn't be offered the opportunity to come here to Oregon and just live this free, entitled lifestyle at taxpayer expense. By the way, they cannot use federal money for this, and you can be sure that they won't change that at the federal level at this point, at least for now. How can the state legislature push ranked choice voting after voters just said no? By ignoring voters and passing stuff anyway, in whatever way they can figure out they can. No, democracy to Democrats means that they get progressive policies no matter what. Doesn't mean that they listen to people or obey the voters or even follow a process that considers what voters think. And by the way, to your Measure 114 question, I think about will it go to the U.S. Supreme Court? I believe it has to go through the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, which is where you'll find it's a court that's been reversed by the Supreme Court like 80 or 90% of the time. But there's no reassurance that this will make it to the U.S. Supreme Court. It might and probably should, but it might not, depending on what happens at the lower court level. Meanwhile, it'll probably go and be implemented as soon as the state completes its judicial process, which I think is destined to go ahead and just rubber stamp the appellate court decision. I hope not, but Kate Brown, Tina Kotek, they pretty much have appointed everybody on that court, and enough said, right? My niece, 19, has a gun to chase away coyotes who want to eat their chickens who are in a coop. Well, those innocent coyotes are going and trying to free those chickens from being in a coop. And so therefore, you could say they are free-range coyote heroes who are going to go ahead and free those chickens who might accidentally get eaten in the process. Oops. But yes, your niece is a hardened criminal that apparently by possessing a firearm to shoot coyotes is the worst kind of criminal that you could have in this state. And nothing like the wonderful people that sell fentanyl in Portland and hold illegal guns to protect their fentanyl stash and their $5,000 in cash in their pocket. But anyway, obviously I'm being facetious, but in a state that's doing everything they can wrong, you got to wonder when the moment of accountability is going to happen. Maybe some of it will come from the federal level, I hope. But I also think that some of it might come in 2026 here in Oregon, while they scream about the importance of federal workers and claim that fulfilling the democratic will of electing President Trump to reduce the size of government and get rid of waste, fraud, and abuse is somehow unconstitutional and undemocratic. It's fascinating. I think the debate in 2026 needs to be shaped by all of these things that we know and all the things that we get out and tell people. So thank you, Lori. Thank you for watching tonight, and Marjorie. Really appreciate you guys tuning in. It's important we share this show with folks because they don't know what's going on. They don't know all the stuff's happening right under their noses. By the way, one last comment. There's a good editorial by Catherine Hickok in the Cascade from the Cascade Policy Institute in the Oregon Catalyst, saying education funds should follow the child for charter school parents. And there is a bill, House Bill 3444, which did receive a hearing in a House committee on March 12th, that would allow charter students to receive 95% of the per pupil funding. I think it's currently at 80. Although there's something here that says that the Oregon Coalition of Community Charter Schools says that charter school funding works out to be about 48% of a regular district's per pupil funding, 48%. And yet people are clamoring to get into these charter schools because that's how much a better job they do compared to regular public schools. And they do it on a fraction of the money. Gee, I wonder if we could save some money and do a better job educating. Well, for now, the Democrats are definitely holding the cards, but I think I think they're making a lot of unforced errors, and we have to stand for the things that people really want, make sure that they know it. And so let's do it. Love Dancer. I'm not sure is that referring to Rick Dancer? Anyway, yes, and the state mental health director is identified as a turtle. I think we covered something about that last week. And there was an attempt to clarify that, and they had the kookiest person of all time try to clarify it. Who, let me see if I can find that. There was an article about it, and it was absolutely downright insanely hilarious. The person they picked to offer clarity to us. Yes, here we go. It's the Oregon Health Authority's Consumer Advisory Council advising OHSU they defended their turtle pronoun advice. Quote, "We are a family of weirdos hoping to make access and care better for all Oregonians." They added, it's one person saying this, by the way. They added, "There are many ways to feel other in a human world that have nothing to do with being delusional." There you go. That is what Democrats call governance, and they're running on it in 2026. There you go. I've just posted that. Please have a look at that. I know somebody in the Oregonian tried to defend it. You just can't make this stuff up. You don't have to. They're doing it for us. Anyway, thanks everyone for watching tonight, and I do hope it did make national news. And the Oregonian was attacking Fox News for covering it. So they sent up the fruitcake to say that nonsense. So yes, I said fruitcake. That's right. That's nonsense. Identifying as a turtle and saying it's fine. Furries and litter boxes in schools. That's all going to go away eventually. There's no way that's going to hang around. I think they should have special schools that we don't pay for, that people can just go and have their kids be furries and use litter boxes. But if they want to do that instead of learning to read and write, they should. Actually, if you're a furry, you don't need to read and write. You can just go off to the zoo and hang out and be fed all day. I'm pretty sure there's a SNAP program coming your way if you just want to be a furry in a zoo. Anyway, yes. Yeah, turtles probably shouldn't have guns. That's my guess. But I'm pretty sure that turtle would probably shoot themselves accidentally. So there's no training program for turtles and furries yet. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed tonight's show. We try to hit it with a sense of humor. And I do hope that you guys, a snap turtle. Oh, Lori, that's actually very good. That is very, very good. Yes. Well, thank you everyone for watching, and do share the show with somebody who wants to laugh, wants to be informed, wants to know what to do about it. And I want to thank you for watching. Have a great night, and I'll